Welcome back to Nature News. I'm Alice Ford, and today is January 19th, 2021. Stay with me for some important updates in climate, wildlife, science, and green living. Now, one thing I love about winter is the absence of bugs. Bugs might actually get a really bad rap, but they're extremely important to the environment. And sadly, insects are actually vanishing at an alarming rate all over the world. And then the world rejoiced. Just kidding, guys. They're actually really important. Insects actually pollinate many of our fruits, flowers, and vegetables. They also help decompose organic materials and are a valuable food source for other animals and even many human populations. Now, without the help of insects, we wouldn't have honey, beeswax, silk, or many other useful products. And since 1990, terrestrial insects appear to be declining in abundance at a rate of about 9% per decade, which is really high. And the abundance of freshwater insects has actually increased by 12%, so that's good. But the biggest threats actually come from land use change, like deforestation, comes from climate change, from agriculture, and introduced species, as well as nitrification and pollution. So we need to stop polluting. We need to help insects in any way we can. And I'd love to give a shout out to all the insect lovers out there. So drop a comment down below with your favorite or least favorite insect. My least favorite is definitely the deer fly, and my favorite is the praying mantis. Kilauea in Hawaii looks like it will soon erupt again. Vents remain open on the northwest side of the volcano, which sits on the Big Island of Hawaii. 6 years later, 2 former Michigan public health officials have finally been charged just yesterday with involuntary manslaughter for their role in the Flint water crisis. Now, this crisis, you may remember, it began in 2014. Prosecutors allege that inadequate levels of chlorine led to actually 12 deaths from Legionnaire's disease from local residents that lived in Flint. Now, this was caused by waterborne bacteria that was in the water, and former Governor Rick Snyder separately pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of negligence for his role in the overall crisis. Now, this crisis began in 2014 when state officials switched the city's water source from Lake Huron water, which was actually treated in Detroit, to the Flint River, and that was actually treated in Flint at a very old system in a cost-cutting measure. Now, the officials there failed to use anti-corrosion chemicals to treat this water, and it caused lead and other contaminants to actually leach out of aging pipes into the water supply there. As you may know, young people are particularly susceptible to lead, which is a known toxin, and it can cause irreversible damage to brain development. A study actually found that 58% increase in fetal deaths in the majority Black city followed the water switch. And this is happening in a lot of places all around the world. If you're worried about your city water, I recommend installing a under sink or house-wide water filtering system. I actually got one for my kitchen sink for less than about $60 US. It was super easy to install, and it reduces total dissolved solids by about 99%. I'll put a link down below in the description for that if you want to check it out. Now, here on Earth, this past week, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said that 2020 was among the hottest years on record. Yeah, climate change is real, Earthlings. At least 34 people are dead and more than 600 people have been injured after a 6.2 magnitude earthquake rocked Indonesia. Now, this area is in the Ring of Fire. It's one of the world's most seismically active zones on the planet, and there are always a lot of earthquakes and volcanoes in this area. If you want to hear more about this kind of news, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and share this video with a friend. Diesel trucks make up less than 3% of Shanghai's vehicle fleet, but they actually produce 46% of the particulates that help choke the city skies with gray smog. And so the city there actually is going to ban them, and they hope to do it by 2022, which is a really quick turnaround. I hope to see this take place. I actually visited China about 7 years ago, and the air pollution was so bad in Beijing that I vowed not to return again until they cleaned up the skies. So I'm really glad that they're starting to make some initiatives to clean up the air pollution there. Here in the US, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the new US president tomorrow on January 20th, and one of his first acts of duty will be re-entering the Paris Climate Accord and recommitting to reducing greenhouse gas emissions throughout the United States. Now, bringing America into a green energy future is one of Joe Biden's first big commitments, and one of these is going to include repealing the permit to the Keystone XL pipeline as well, which brought tar sand oil from Canada into the United States. If you visited any of the western US, you may be surprised to know that most of it gets its water from one small source, that small source being the Colorado River. And that river is getting hit hard by climate change. Now, the water behind Glen Canyon Dam has fallen to just 42% of Lake Powell's full capacity. And downstream from that, behind Hoover Dam near Las Vegas, Lake Mead is now at just 39% full, and it's approaching a shortage. So farmers, city officials, environmentalists, managers of water utilities, and other big stakeholders have actually all gotten together to talk about ways that they can adapt. And there are procedures that they're starting to put in place to deal with these shortages. But there are also scenarios in which water deliveries may be abruptly cut off in some areas, potentially triggering a crisis and a ripple effect to the millions of people that get their water from the Colorado River. So if you live in the western US like I do, you should be making changes in your household to reduce water usage, to collect rainwater if you can, to reuse grade water if you own your home. You can use that for gardens. You can plant native plants, which reduce the amount of watering you need to do. And you should just be more sustainable as a water user. Now, Americans use about 4 times more water per day than most of our developed nations, so there is a lot of reducing that we can all do at home. Microplastics have been found in every corner of the globe, from the top of Mount Everest to the deepest oceans. We actually consume them in the air we breathe and the food we eat, and so do the animals all around us. Now, new studies show that washing our clothes is actually contributing even more to micropollution and sending that pollution into the Arctic oceans. Now, when we wash our clothes, there are teeny tiny particles that shut off and they wash into our oceans and rivers through the wastewater. Now, scientists have actually estimated that 3,500 tons of microplastics ended up in the Arctic Ocean from Canada and the US, and this is every year. Now, the area of ocean those are commonly found is actually an area from about 3 to 7 feet deep. It's a biologically important area where we find phytoplankton, zooplankton, small fish, big fish, and seabirds and marine animals that are foraging and looking for food. So microplastic pollution is extremely harmful, as they often mistake it as food. They end up ingesting it, and this is why we're finding more birds and fish and marine mammals with plastic in their guts. So there's a couple of things that you can do with your laundry to reduce microplastics. One of those is buying organic fabrics like wool, cotton, and hemp, and avoiding synthetic fabrics. You can wash your clothes in cold water. You can also install a filter to your laundry machine. They also make wash clothes bags that actually catch some of the fibers. You put all your clothes in there before you wash, and those are great too. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to take a look at that as well. Over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, they have joined California, making a big announcement that they are going to aim to be carbon neutral by 2050. Now, to reach its goal, the city will likely have to employ offsets or actions that would mitigate burning fossil fuels, such as planting trees or carbon sequestration and removal. I'm excited to see how they progress with this, and I hope more cities and states join the cause as well. In Norway, they've become the first nation to have more than 50% of new cars sold be electric. Now, the government's firm ambition is that 100% of all new cars sold in Norway must be zero emission by 2025. I mean, they're already halfway there, so this is really great work that the government has done there. It's really reaffirmed the government's comprehensive climate action plan, which they just proposed on January 8th. And if you guys haven't been to Norway, Oslo, its capital city, was actually voted the most sustainable city in Europe in 2019. You can learn more about Oslo and what you can do in Norway too in one of my videos on Norway, which I'll link down in the description. And that's all I've got for you guys this week, but I would love to hear from you about any climate, nature, or wildlife concerns in your neighborhood. So drop a comment down below, and don't forget to hit subscribe, share this channel with a friend. As you guys know, this is a brand new channel. I do need 1,000 subscribers before I can get that unique YouTube vanity URL so that I can share this channel a little bit more easily. So I could really use your support in helping us get there. I've also started a nature news Facebook group for anyone wanting to chat in more detail about nature or wildlife, science, climate, any of that stuff that I talk about in any of these weekly videos. So I put a link down below to the Facebook group in the description below. You guys can check it out and come join me over there to chat in more depth. And that's all. So I will see you guys next week, and thank you again for joining me.